Okay, folks, welcome to my second and final video review of YAIRA number 2. We're going to be looking especially at how the writing and the artwork get out of sync. We've already had an example of this from the previous video, in which YAIRA is at home and gets startled by the rumbling of thunder. But this startling takes place after she's already berated herself for being startled. This poor sequencing could have easily been fixed by moving the caption box down into the next panel. But even that doesn't fix everything because YAIRA is looking up into a clear sky free of clouds. Where is the thunder coming from? Another sort of syncing problem is when the art seems to speed up, then slow down, then speed up again. For example, in this scene, YAIRA is going out for a swim. No, she's not naked, she's wearing a swimsuit, and she sees someone waving to her from the shore. Turns out it's somebody she knows, and she's really happy to see the guy. She practically leaps out of the water, only to slow down to a snail's pace of a walk, and then leaps into the guy's arms. So she's moving fast, excited, then she slows down, then she's moving fast again. If you're going to have this panel in the middle at all, you should have her running toward the guy. Sometimes the synchronization problems are more subtle. Here we have YAIRA's long-lost descendant Stefania Martinez, now a member of Alpha Corps, in a training exercise, sending a punching bag flying across the room. And apparently supervising her exercise is Ingrid Valdez. Now, the place where Ingrid Valdez is casually leaning against the wall corresponds to this spot in the first panel. Because that spot is obscured from view in the first panel, it's natural for the reader to assume that Ingrid Valdez has been there the whole time. But Stefania says to her, "Did he send you to look after the gym equipment, Ingrid? You must be moving up." Typically, this is the sort of thing that you say to someone who wasn't there before, who's maybe surprised you and is standing in the doorway. But as far as we know, Ingrid Valdez has been there the whole time, so it doesn't really make sense for Stefania to have said that. There are still more subtle synchronization problems. Let's look at these shadows. Because the room is tilted in both of the first two panels, it's hard to get a feel for where these shadows are actually pointing. So let's go ahead and tilt both panels so that the room's horizontal lines are horizontal to us. Here's the proof that we're seeing the room now in its proper orientation. Now look at the second panel and see how Stefania's shadow is falling. Clearly, this is a case where the light source is off to our left, her right, and so her shadow falls directly to her left, or our right. And that's exactly what we see when we look at this panel. The light source is somewhere off to our left, or her right, and so her shadow falls in the exact opposite direction of the light source. Now, what happens if you take the same object we were looking at, in this case Stefania, and move the object forward? In that case, the shadow is still going to be on the opposite side of the light source. But because the object is moved forward, the shadow is going to fall forward as well, because now the light source is somewhat behind the object. But look what happens in the first panel when Stefania is a couple of steps forward from her position in the second panel. Her shadow inexplicably falls backwards. Her shadow should be falling forwards. Not only that, but the same light source should not be causing Stefania's shadow to go a little lower than her actual height, whereas it causes Ingrid's shadow to go higher than her actual height. The physics in this room just aren't making sense, and it gets better. Given that the light source is falling on the right side of Stefania's face, why in the third panel is the right side of her face in shadow? The shadow should be on the left side of her face. I'm no Ethan Van Sciver, but even I can see that the artist has gotten a lot wrong in this sequence of panels. Moving into this next sequence, I need to give a little bit of setup. YAIRA, in her guise as archaeologist-biologist Dr. Sally Rodell, has submitted a proposal to her boss Lincoln Eusebio to uncover the lost city of Atlantis. Lincoln, being a complete buffoon with no BS meter whatsoever, accepts her proposal enthusiastically. So Sally and her Projectus colleague Altona fly to Spain, where they're met at the airport by their Projectus colleague Jerry, who says, "Ladies, wonderful to see that you have arrived safely. Let me carry that for you, Sal." And Sally replies, "Thank you, Jerry. By the way, what happened to you, Dr. Daniels?" Now, first, it should go without saying that when you're asking a question, your sentence should end in a question mark. But more importantly, to whom is she asking this question? You would think that since the question is contained in the same dialogue balloon as her address to Jerry previously, plus the fact that she's facing in Jerry's direction, plus the fact that he's got a prosthetic leg, which is obviously the kind of thing that's going to provoke a question like, "What happened to you?" All the evidence from this panel points to this character being Dr. Jerry Daniels, so that Sally is asking the question to him. But then there's this editor's note that says, "Check out ISOM number 2 to see what Sally means." And I was honestly asking myself, was this guy in ISOM number 2? He's not the guy who was Lincoln Eusebio's assistant in that book. I honestly don't remember seeing him. And then I realized, oh wait, he was in ISOM number 2, not him. And that's when I finally remembered it had been established in YAIRA number 1 that Altona's last name is Daniels. So the question is actually being directed at Altona. And that's confirmed by the conversation continuing between her and Sally. A family soccer game that got a bit out of control, nothing to get all worked up about. It must have been some game. It was. So we've confirmed that Altona was the subject of Sally's question, "What happened to you?" And the answer that Altona gives implies that she's sporting some sort of physical damage. But physical damage from what? What are we supposed to be seeing here? She looks perfectly fine in both of these panels. Checking back to ISOM number 2, we find that Altona got smacked pretty hard across the face by ISOM's enemy, Darren Fontano. So it's pretty clear now that Sally must have spotted some facial injury on Altona. But is it visible to the reader? Here's a blown-up headshot from the first panel, and I don't see anything. Here's a blown-up headshot from the second panel, and I don't see anything. Aren't they going to show the reader, who might not have read ISOM number 2, just what the heck Sally is talking about? Maybe it's in a later headshot. Let's see. Headshot, 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 headshot. Okay. 3 pages after the question was asked, we can finally see the shiner that Altona is sporting. 3 pages where the reader had to wonder what the heck was Sally talking about. Finally, we get our answer. Of course, even if you read ISOM number 2, you're still going to be confused at this point because Darren smacked her on the left side of her face, and it's the right side of her face that's sporting the shiner. At this point, I'm about ready to give up on trying to make sense of it all. Thankfully, there actually is an explanation provided on the next page for why the shiner is appearing on the wrong side of her face. Turns out the dinner meeting that Sally is having with Altona is actually a nightmare. And in a dream, of course, you might get some details wrong. However, I did check through the rest of the book, and I didn't see any other close-ups of Altona that indicated the shiner being on the proper side of her face, or that she had a shiner at all. At which point I decided, yeah, it's time to give up on this one. On to the next out-of-sync situation. Javier Cruz, head of operations at Projexis Spain, introduces himself to Dr. Sally Rodell while shaking hands with Jerry. Is it a Spanish custom to shake hands with one person but introduce yourself to a different person? Somehow I don't think so. It's also pretty clear from the fact that there's so much space in the second panel for dialogue balloons that this balloon that was shoved down here at the bottom really should have appeared in the second panel. And if the letterer didn't think that there was enough room in the second panel because of that "I am not a fan" dialogue balloon, there was plenty of space in the third panel to move the second balloon over. So Javier warns Sally, "You may have bewitched Lincoln overseas, but it is my job to protect him and to protect this company against any dangerous risks." To which Sally replies, "Wait, is Sally even talking to him anymore? Where'd he go?" We just cut immediately to the scene where she's surrounded by cameras and reporters. Now, yeah, the conversation that we see here does appear to flow from the previous objection by Javier, but it looks like she's making her response to the reporters and not to him. If he's even in the panel, this could be him here, but even if that is him, she's definitely not paying any attention to him while giving her answer. Then we have this fawning reporter saying, "Dr. Rodell, is that accent Icelandic? Have you spent some time there?" And instead of replying to the reporter, Sally just continues her conversation with Javier, even though he's not even in the panel. But you want to know the question that's really annoying me? Why is all this media attention being lavished upon a scientist? She's a biologist archaeologist. Those are not high-profile people. Probably the most famous scientist of our generation was Dr. Stephen Hawking, who, to be frank, was more famous for the fact that he couldn't move than for any actual scientific contribution he ever made. And even at the height of his popularity, the most he ever got out of it was a movie chronicling his education, marriage, and physical decline, and a cameo appearance on Star Trek: The Next Generation where he got to play poker with Lieutenant Commander Data. So how is it that Dr. Sally Rodell is getting swamped by media and paparazzi here? What exactly is she famous for? This reporter describes her as a person known for magical thinking and the promotion of pseudoscience, who made a claim about some realm that would lead to great advancements for the human race, and whose project's funding fell through. She honestly seems like some kind of a disaster. And when exactly did this failed project happen anyway? If it happened before she joined Projexis, you would think that Jerry would have a lot more to protest against than the fact that she was a biologist archaeologist. No, he'd be complaining about the fact that she's a failure, who gets big companies like Projexis to waste millions of dollars on harebrained ideas. And if this failure happened after she joined Projexis, why is Jerry talking about her as if he's her biggest fan now? "We're awfully proud of her back home." For what? What do you have that they don't? Isn't it obvious? Her. Apparently, Sally Rodell's done something at Projexis that makes her career look like something other than a dumpster fire, but heaven forbid that be communicated to the reader. So Altona takes control of an undersea drone and uses it to release a psychic pulse that lifts the cloak on the lost city of Atlantis, enabling Sally to proclaim, "Behold, the lost city of Atlantis as promised." And in record time, I must say, Dr. Daniels. Hold on a second. What do you mean, and in record time, I must say, Dr. Daniels? Did you not know how long this was going to take to accomplish? Oh my God, look back at this dialogue balloon. The Horus drone has a pulse that strongly reacts to psychic interference, which we believe has been cloaking the structure. You don't know? How do you not know? Why in God's name did you invite the media to an event where you not only don't know how long it might take to uncover a lost city of Atlantis, but you don't even know whether the lost city is there? I mean, let me make sure I got this timeline right. Projexis division in Spain is doing deep-sea research of an unknown kind that has nothing to do with Atlantis. And we know that because Projexis founder Lincoln Eusebio is amazed when Dr. Sally Rodell brings up discovering Atlantis as a potential project. For some reason we're never given, Sally tells Lincoln that she wants to take Dr. Altona Daniels to Projexis research base in Spain so that Altona can pilot a drone equipped with a psychic pulse emitter to the seafloor and fire off a pulse to maybe discover Atlantis. Not only does Lincoln agree, he also arranges for media coverage to attend the expedition so that if this complete shot in the dark, so far as we've been told, succeeds, there will be great media fanfare. And if it fails, it's Geraldo and Al Capone's vault all over again. What editor at Rippaverse got this plot and said, yeah, this makes sense? Take 5 seconds to think of a better timeline. Projexis division in Spain is doing deep-sea research of an unknown kind that has nothing to do with Atlantis. They discover weird energy readings on the sea floor. After studying the energy readings, archaeologist Dr. Sally Rodell posits that the energy is psychic and being used to cloak the city of Atlantis. This is why Sally Rodell is valuable, by the way. She uses the biology side of her expertise to understand that this is psychic energy. She uses her archaeological expertise to link that psychic energy to Atlantis. That's what makes her special and valuable to Projexis. Projexis founder Lincoln Eusebio is skeptical, but Dr. Altona Daniels says she can equip a drone with a psychic pulse emitter to test Sally's hypothesis. This introduction of skepticism on Lincoln's part is how we keep him from looking like a gullible dork. Sally and Altona fly to the Spanish Projexis division and conduct their test in extreme secrecy, revealing the existence of Atlantis. In extreme secrecy, because of course you do not invite the media to something you don't already know in advance is going to work. Why couldn't the editors at Rippaverse spend just a minuscule amount of brain power coming up with notes like this to send to the Saska sisters and say your plot needs tightening up, looking forward to your second draft? I asked Documon and even he's given up. Now, of course, there's more to the story of YAIRA number 2, but honestly, it's not worth getting into. There are no real lessons I can teach you from it other than please write something better than this. The book does have some positive elements like covering more of YAIRA's backstory and introducing some new characters tied to all of that. And it actually does finally explain how Dr. Sally Rodell gets so much media attention. For those of you unfamiliar with Dr. Sally Rodell's flamboyant and unorthodox approach to science, this is a real spectacle sport for her. Sally trained to be an Olympic-level athlete. Because of this, she's amassed an almost cult-like following in the scientific community. She's known for wild publicity stunts to gain viewers. In the panel, we see one of those stunts where she's got weights strapped to her that are holding her down underwater. She believes in angels, she believes in dragons, she believes in aliens. She has been quoted saying magic is real and that everyone possesses some kind of psychic ability. Dr. Sally Rodell should have her credentials revoked by every license-granting governing body, but they keep her around for the views she attracts with spectacles like this. She is blatantly endangering lives and promoting dangerous thought experiments. So basically, Sally Rodell is a combination of the Ancient Aliens guy and street magician David Blaine, who's known for wild acts like holding his breath underwater for 17 minutes. And that's actually not a bad backstory to give Dr. Sally Rodell. The problem is, this is the thing we needed to know all the way back in YAIRA number 1, where there was this ginormous press conference thrown for her for joining Projexis, and I'm thinking, why is all this media attention being lavished on a new hire? I'm glad the writers finally provided that information, but like the song says. So I do have some positive feelings about YAIRA number 2 in that they do reveal information that we've been looking for some time. Unfortunately, the book suffers from overuse of a particular writing device that cripples the reader's ability to invest in the plot. I'm not going to tell you what that is, of course, no spoilers. Overall, I think the good and the bad in YAIRA number 2 balance out such that it keeps pretty much the same quality level as before, which is why I'm going to give it a 4.5 like its predecessor. The story's a little less coherent than what we got in the previous issue, but the little revelations about YAIRA's history and Sally Rodell's background sprinkled throughout the book give us some reason to be forgiving. All in all, I think the creative team probably deserve a pat on the back just for keeping the series at a consistent quality from issue 1 to issue 2, a stark improvement over the issue to issue performance of the Rippaverse's flagship title, ISOM. Probably the worst thing about YAIRA number 2 is that it's not a complete story and continues into YAIRA number 3. Yes, there will be a bribe stream in the near future. So I hope you enjoyed my video review of YAIRA number 2, and I especially hope that it contains some lessons for you on how to keep your writing and art from getting out of sync. I'm Mike Partika. Please like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe to be notified of future videos. Next review on the docket is Nephilim Squadron number 1 from Hexallen Comics, another one of my viewers who's reached out to me for a video review. What is Nephilim Squadron about? Your guess is as good as mine, so make sure you're subscribed to get notified when that video review drops. Once again, I'm Mike Partika. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later.